helping employees feel happier and healthier in life and at work.
You want to grow your business. It's normal to want to grow your business. We want more revenue, we want more sales, we want more profit. But to do that, we need more team members, and we need them to be well trained. There's a problem, however. Most training sucks.
Employees not only acquire the learnings they need through an experience fueled with fun games, activities and challenges, but also get rewarded along the way.
The industry norm for professional training is after 90 days, only 2.5% of information that people receive via professional training is retained. That's an insanely low number. Now this is where Rafa steps in with his company UJJI. They've leveraged AI to get those numbers way higher, 20 times higher in fact, so that when people train using their system, people retain over 50% of the information after 90 days. Now, for anyone with a business, these kind of numbers are seriously important. It means if you want your people to learn and gather skills and get on board with what your mission is as a company, if you leverage a company like UJJI, then you're much more likely to get the scale and the success that you're looking for. I'll let Rafa explain more. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. It's a very interesting conversation where we dive into how UJJI works, how it started, and what it can do for your company.
Exactly 3 months before I moved to the UK, I lost my father to cancer. There will always be the bad people, right? Like these people will always try to find a way to actually make an impact negatively. Many businesses we speak to say, hey, we're too small for training. We don't actually need training. And they think they're small. 50 people is actually not small at all. And if you're 50 people, you're likely very soon to start seeing things coming back to bite you.
When people are not in their prime in life, they won't perform at their peak at work. And this directly impacts companies' financial performance.
Rafa, we've got this little segment which is an elevator pitch. Wonder if you could describe within roughly 20 seconds what UJJI does. You up for that?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. I'll play a little sound. You're going to hear the elevator doors opening. As soon as they open, you're off.
UJJI is the learning as a service platform powered by AI. We transform your internal documents, PDFs, PPTs into micro-learning on the very specifics of your business, 30 times faster and at a fraction of the cost of traditional learning methods.
Very good, mate. That's very good. This is the third time we've done this, and each time it's worked, and each time it's surprised me, because I don't know if I could do what you guys are doing so well. Perfectly timed, 20 seconds. Rafa, I read in your LinkedIn, and I've also, as I told you just before we started recording, I also looked at some of the customer reviews of UJJI. Looks interesting. AI, of course, huge, but I guess playing devil's advocate, everybody's talking about AI and everyone seems to have AI. So it'll be interesting to hear how you guys are leveraging it. But it was also interesting seeing people saying really good things about the company. That was always good to see from a third party. It says on your LinkedIn, the UJJI is a learning as a service platform. It leverages AI to build on a business's specific ways of working. And it seems like gamification is a big part of it. Am I wrong?
No, that's correct. That's correct. It's a very much one of the pillars of the methodology, essentially.
And what is it that you think? Why do you think gamification helps with say company learning? Because that's what we're talking about, right? Employees,
absolutely,
they have a certain skill they need to learn, and you guys are making it more entertaining, more interactive.
Yeah, 100%. So the three main pillars to UJJI's methodology and unique way of driving learning within businesses Starts with gamification.
Someone on your team can select to enhance their physical and mental well-being, improve their networking skills, and expand their social circles. Each user then receives UJJI sessions contextualized around their goals based on our proprietary 4-step methodology. Employees not only acquire the learnings they need through an experience fueled with fun games, activities, and challenges, but also get rewarded along the way.
First of all, just making it something that is more engaging, and that ultimately people will at least give it a chance, because you know this better than I do when it comes to learning and training within the corporate world. It's always that thing, you just press, check the box, move on, because you just want to have your login back and continue working. Now, when it comes to actually getting people up and running on your bespoke processes, your very specific ways of working, it cannot be that way, because if people don't have the learning, the knowledge about any of your specific models, tried and tested processes, if they don't have the knowledge around that, they'll never be able to put anything into practice. Or worse, you are spending a lot of time, and when it comes to time waste, that also equates to money waste as well. So our research points to 143 minutes of an employee's day wasted on teaching, learning, and implementing processes, which at the end of the day equates to 25 pounds per employee per day going down the drain.
So your point being is that they spend that time, but they don't necessarily learn anything.
Yeah, they're either using that time to teach and pass on the learnings if you're a manager, if you're a leader, or actually reviewing loads of PowerPoint decks, massive sort of like documents, and all of these specific pieces of knowledge, essentially, that don't necessarily follow any sort of structure. So with UJJI, what we do is we basically transform all of these pieces of knowledge that you have already documented into micro learning. But that micro learning is essentially more fun to go through. So that's where the gamification comes in. Second, it's backed by, it follows a methodology that's backed by behavioral sciences. So this methodology has been created in Oxford and validated with neuroscientists, psychologists, behavioral scientists from the university. And third, it very much follows this approach of bespoke learning. So basically, not just any sort of like leveraging of a readily available suite of training that really does not make an impact on your day-to-day whatsoever. It'll perhaps one day drive some impact to your business collectively. But with UJJI, what we want to make sure that companies, at least in the mid-market, are doing is upskilling their people on their very specific ways of going about with their business. So elements that can make an impact today, not just tomorrow.
On your LinkedIn, it says you're based out of London. Is that still true?
I am based in London, yes. The business was originally built in Oxford, and so we kept our headquarters there. In fact, my co-founder is based in Oxford. We have some people working full-time out of Oxford as well, but we're very much of a remote team. So we'll have people in Brazil, UK, Poland, and India. And hopefully becoming even more of an international team as we expand.
Yeah. Now your English is exceptionally good, but you're not English, are you?
I'm not English. I'm actually from Brazil originally. So yeah, essentially have been speaking English since I was a little boy. I did go to an American school back in Brazil. Also got to live in the US, in Canada too. And now I've been in the UK almost 7 years. So yeah, this is home now.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, my kids are kind of like the reverse of that. So they're half Brazilian, obviously not my half, and yeah, their Portuguese isn't bad. It's not bad, but they're learning. They're kind of doing the apps and stuff and learning the Portuguese. That obviously from their mother as well. So yeah, I love it. I love speaking to people who are really good at languages. It's a passion of mine, you know.
Man, 100%. In fact, given you touched on the topic of language and going back to UJI, from the gamification standpoint that you touched on, we very much wanted to leverage the success that Duolingo has achieved in the world of language learning, but now applying it to professional upskilling. So
Yeah.
that is basically why we've been seeing the highest of the engagement rates in the industry, because the adoption and the 90-day retention rates of
Yeah.
the L&D solutions out there, they're just rubbish. And so, yeah, bringing a bit of that success from the world of language learning into professional corporate training, essentially, is our view
It's
of
how
what
people
will
want to
drive.
learn, right?
Exactly. It cannot be about like long-winded 2-3 hour courses where you just wait for someone to ramble about whatever topic for whatever amount of hours consequently. It has to be break down into small little chunks where you actually then have real life tasks at the end. You put it into practice. So this is why we really believed in micro action based learning here at UG.
I like it. Well, it works for my kids. They use Duolingo every day. I didn't even suggest it to them. So also based off the reviews that I've read of Uji, I'd say that there's a strong parallel there. People seem to really get something from it, which is cool. So you guys have, according to LinkedIn, which take that with a pinch of salt, you guys have 33 employees. That's quite a big team.
Man, that's certainly not the case. LinkedIn can sometimes get a bit of a
Huge
confusion in that
information.
because, like, some of our investors they pin down as themselves as an employee
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes, or like someone that is just an advisor, for example. We're still very
Right.
much of a lean team, around 15 people,
Okay.
almost actually a bit more than that now, considering some part-time as well. But yeah, I think we'll only be 33 in 2025 onwards, really, to be honest.
Understood. Understood. But that's still cool. And you guys are all working remotely, correct?
Yeah, we are 100% remote, and obviously try to get together every time we can, essentially.
Mm.
Like I go to Oxford once or twice a week. My co-founder also comes to London once or twice a week. And then everyone that's in the UK, we try to get together at least every 2 weeks or so. And very soon to have like a bit of a retreat, essentially, hopefully in sometime in 2024, where we can bring in like everyone that's in India, Poland, Brazil together, to have some fun and a bit of that sort of like in-person engagement, which we know is so much very important.
100%. So, how did Uji start, and what did it take to get where you are today?
So it basically came about with myself and my co-founder trying to solve a personal pain that we both felt back in the day, essentially. So this is my third venture. Ludmila has also had two successful exits. She's also Brazilian, by the way. So we
Oh,
basically got
really?
together. Yeah, so we basically got together in Oxford, essentially, wherein she was completing her MBA. I was doing my master's in venture capital there. And we just started bouncing around this pain that we felt around getting our processes, our procedures, our SOPs scaling across the business just as fast as our previous businesses scaled. And
Mm.
we remembered that we had like this behavior of documenting everything, which each and every company should have that at least.
Yeah.
Uh, but usually, as I mentioned, that's scattered all over the place, and there's no structure to it.
Yeah.
So what we wanted really to do is give every sort of business outside of the big corporate world, because like the Coca-Colas of the world, they have this sorted, right? They have a big learning and development team
Yeah.
in-house who have the budgets to sign up to an authoring tool, and then to a learning management system. And
Yeah.
then they have the knowledge to build things on an authoring tool, plug that into that learning management system, and
Mm.
then chase people to complete the training, have all of the data, the analytics off the back of that. We
Hmm.
wanted to basically give the opportunity to every single SME, sort of like 25 to 500 employees, the means to also have the same ability to train their employees on their very specific. So
Yeah.
yeah, essentially that's where Uji came up with the AI solution to basically build everything for you as
Mm.
learning as a service, as you said. So very much like a plug-in learning and development team that comes in with AI to solve it, like all of your requirements when it comes to knowledge sharing within your business.
Got it. Cool. Very cool. So we've got a segment that we call the deep dive. What's the most important thing about UG to you?
Love it. Oh man, this one. So there's so many of them, but really, I think the most important one comes down to really solving this pain that I know so many other founders or leaders across the board also feel nowadays. The same pain I felt back in the day. So every
Mm.
time we can actually build a training for a customer, every time we see this customer actually using UJJI to build the training, deploy it to their people, and then we have like a G2 review or even an email coming back to say, hey, this is magic.
Mm.
What you guys have been doing, it really is solving our pain uh, in so many shapes and forms. That's what it means the most to me, you know, like, because it's a validation of all the research that we did, all of the blood, sweat, and tears that's gone into building the product and getting it to the place in which it's at now. That's essentially making this impact across the board to so many startups, scale ups,
Mm.
businesses in the UK that have the means to continue growing, but not necessarily the means to train their people on their very specific processes.
Understood. What are you passionate about either what you do or what UG does?
Um, so I'm a tech geek, a data geek, now an AI geek as well. So I just love being able to work with other tech companies essentially, and seeing all of the amazing uses of tech out there, especially within the world of AI now, which is very much like just the early days.
Mm.
But you see so many new applications, so many new ways in which people are seeing AI actually disrupting their own industries and just really delivering a real sort of like impact when it comes to what they can actually solve in terms of problems that have been identified. This is
Mm.
my passion, really. You know, like I've been a business strategist, a business and brand strategist my whole life.
Hmm.
Being able to use technology in the favor of solving problems is my passion.
Yeah.
We do this within the world of training and learning for businesses, but we work with many businesses that are using AI and all of other pieces of tech, Web3, all of that good stuff in so many
Mm.
different verticals. Like I'm just very, very lucky to be able to see this firsthand.
Absolutely. How do you measure success for UG?
So then we're touching on a big point here for us, because this is really what actually got us to start building UG in the first place. So going back to uh, engagement metrics, industry benchmarks, or at least the ones that we work with here at UG, points to an adoption rate of 12.5%.
Okay.
So let's say you have 100 people signed up to an LMS or any sort of like
Mhm.
L&D solution, only 12 to 13 will start using that product.
Yeah.
After 90 days, that falls to 2.5%.
Wow.
So yeah, only 2 to 3 will still be using your product after 3 months. And
Yeah.
then you're signed up and locked into a long contract,
Mhm.
18, 24 months. One day a client of ours came and said, hey, but we're now locked in for 5 years with another company on a contract. I was like, how did you fall into this trap? And it
Yeah.
really drives me crazy because no one was actually using that other product.
Mhm.
So this is the way in which like these old learning and development solutions are basically making money.
Yeah.
They don't have any costs because their cloud computing is so cheap.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they have like recurring subscriptions with these businesses where they can't actually get out of.
Yeah.
Um, why do we do the things differently? Because we have an engagement rate that is so much higher than the industry. So our adoption rate here at UJJI is on average 69%.
Nice.
We've seen clients achieving like 90, 94%.
Okay.
Um, and our 90-day retention is of 52% compared to that 2.5% in the
Yeah.
industry.
It's
So
insanely like higher.
yeah, so that's why we only have quarterly or annual plans. Most of the businesses that work with us, they jump in on a quarterly plan even first
Yeah.
because they want to give it a spin. And we're like, brilliant, give it a spin, try it out for yourself, and then you'll want to go into the annual plan because it's going to just get you a discount too. And that's what usually happens. But we don't lock people up.
Yeah.
So essentially, like after a year, if you've launched your subscription plan on a yearly plan,
Mm.
that's you just don't renew it with us if you don't want. But still, our churn is very, very low.
That's
So I think it's just a new way of seeing the industry. So engagement rates, that's one that we really like drill into. There's obviously all of the move the needle metrics that we work with our businesses. So essentially, we do assessments with the leadership team and with the individuals when they first started using UJI. So just right before they actually go on their training plans, and then we have like new assessments being done every 3, 6, 9 months, a year, so that we
mm.
can see those the needle moving quite literally for these businesses. And then we launch case studies with these clients essentially to show the
Yeah.
ROI, so how they're getting the bang for the buck for their training. Essentially, that's another thing we do,
Yeah. That
and
makes a
yeah,
lot of
so many
sense.
others.
That makes a lot of sense that you're able to show them how it actually increases their capacity or grows their business, correct?
Correct. So yeah, really drilling into like their competency frameworks, trying to understand how UJI is actually going to help people truly acquire the skills that are required
Mm.
uh, for that business in particular to get to where they want to get to.
Understood. And how do you measure success personally?
Wow, that's a deep one, eh? uh, um, Well, for me, really, it all comes down to actually seeing UG grow, achieving the KPIs that I've pinned down for ourselves. We obviously do have like all of the metrics in place for where we want to be in like a year's time, for example, or in 3 years' time, and just being able to hit those metrics means everything to me, especially given we're so much of a lean team that is all like super passionate on board of this
Mhm.
mission of empowering each and every leader to pass on knowledge.
Yeah.
If we're actually building this category in the way that we want to within the mid-market space, like this is actually what means success for me, because training and L&D has never been a thing outside of the big corporate world. That's the truth.
Okay.
And so it's all about educating these people, those leaders, on how to actually really move the needle for themselves, but also for the industry as a whole, especially this tech industry that has so much talent to be nurtured.
Okay, that's cool. I get it. What's a common misconception people have about either you or Uji?
So given it's very much of an educational approach that we need to take within this market space, many businesses we speak to say, hey, we're too small for training, we don't actually need training. And then they're small today when they're like 50 people and they think they're small. 50 people is actually not small at all, in my view. If you're 50 people, you're likely very soon to start seeing things coming back to bite you if you're not actually developing your people in the way you should have.
Yeah.
So your turnover rates will increase, your engagement rates will be very poor in like just a matter of a few months. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So a misconception really has to do with the fact that just the very big companies out there should actually have processes around their training. But at the end of the day, it's tied into another misconception around training and learning and development being just the sort of like generic training that we see out there, like leadership training,
Okay.
or I don't know, communications training or whatever that is. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, you hire people that should have all of those in place already. But
Hmm.
how do you train your people on your specific sales process, or on your
Right.
specific customer process,
Yeah.
customer support process, or on like your regulations and compliance, on your ICP, on your value proposition, on how to pitch your business in 20 seconds, just like
Mm.
I did here.
Yeah.
Everyone in a business should be able to pitch their business in 20 seconds, not just the founder.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is where things become different, and that's the misconception that we're trying to tackle here at UG.
Yeah. So I guess you would encourage companies to go deeper than the surface level for their training, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It really comes down to actually empowering your people to be as knowledgeable about like all the moving parts in your business as the founder or the C-level execs. Like if all of these people are not equipped with the specifics of that business, you're very soon going to start to see, as I mentioned, turnover because people won't be as loyal to you.
Mm.
They're also not going to be achieving their own KPIs or your KPIs collectively as a business. So it all comes down with having people being knowledgeable about your industry, your market, your specific ways of doing things. And this is what we're doubling down on here at 2G. Not just generic training like leadership training or whatever, sort of like management training, but actually really focusing on how to be the best leader, the best manager within your business. That's what makes it different.
Understood. Makes sense. Um, you grew up in Brazil, I presume. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, most of my life I've been in Sao Paulo. Yeah.
And how did that shape who you are today?
Uh, um, so Sao Paulo is twice as big as London, right? So just as hectic, but actually, you're just really having to have the street smarts there, if you know what I mean.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
so
I've been. I know.
so yeah, those street smarts, they come a lot in handy, no matter where in the world you are, So this is something that has really played a unique role in how I sort of like navigate each and every environment. I know how to pick up things from a distance. I can basically pinpoint bullshit from miles miles from distance, if you know what I mean. So essentially, like, this is something that I would say Brazil has really given me as a skill,
Yeah.
and that no one will ever be able to take away from me. So I
Yeah.
would say the street smarts for sure. Just being very able to read people very well,
Mm.
and also having like a good finger in the pulse around what is happening around me, my surroundings, etc.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah, I've been to Sao Paulo. It's the definition of the big city, right?
Yeah, yeah. I like to say it's like New York, but in Latin America. It's the equivalent of that, even from a business perspective. So yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I hear you, man. What was the most significant turning point in your life?
Good question as well. So mine was exactly 3 months before I moved to the UK. I lost my father to cancer. Yeah, a bit over 7 years ago now.
Mhm.
So essentially, everything I've learned in my life, personal and professional, has come from my father. Really, he was always my iconic figure and my hero.
Mhm.
And yeah, brain cancer, 3 months.
Wow.
We had to say goodbye. And that was basically when I have decided to move over to the UK and reset life, really. So in a matter of less than a year's time, everything had flipped on its head.
Mm.
From like having a father, like my best friend, where I could just go and grab a pint with, and out of nowhere, not being back home in Brazil anymore, being in a completely different culture, having to find my way around in the UK, in a place where obviously super friendly community, but it takes time for you to settle in as well, if you know what I mean. Like so many different uh, bits and bobs that you need to be aware of culturally, but also just the weather, even, like
Oh
things,
yeah.
it getting dark at like 3:30 p.m. Like it's not something you ever get used to, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I understand.
that was the turning point of my life, I would say.
It's a big one. It's a really big one. What's something surprising you've learned about the people who are your customers?
Yeah, surprising, I would say. um it's very much of an interesting one, because they usually think that they have it all in place, when it comes to how they're going to be growing their business, but usually that's not the case.
Hmm.
So that is exactly why we're now also building a conversational part of the UJAI tool,
Hmm.
because many of these businesses, they do not document their processes. They do not have
Hmm.
like the means to actually go about in setting up their SOPs, their procedures in each and every area of their business. They just go about in doing things. And amazing, yeah, startup world, like break things fast and
Hmm.
move quickly, but please do document your
Yeah.
processes.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing now is essentially having you just talk to GAI,
Hmm.
and then it'll build the training for you. So essentially, we'll use all of the prompts within new GAI to get you talking, yourself and another few stakeholders that are important for that particular topic, that particular process, whatever.
Hmm.
So let's say you have your own way of finding leads, of closing deals, of dealing with
Hmm.
objection handling, whatever. Just jump on a call with your GAI founder, CRO, some SDRs,
Hmm.
start talking about that process in particular, and UJI
Hmm.
will build that training for you. So this is a response to a surprising thing, which was, okay, yeah, businesses do document their process. No, they don't. Not all of them,
Hmm.
at least. And that's why we are really doubling down, and we're also super bullish of this particular new feature we're launching soon.
Yeah, it sounds cool that you can just kind of describe what it is that you're trying to teach, and from that there will be your version of kind of an SOP, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing that is very cool about the technology is that even when there are like inconsistencies with your SOP, or even like gaps in the knowledge,
Hmm.
you're not only just using your specific primary source of information, like your deck, your PPT, your PDF, or even whatever it is that you have spoken
Yeah.
with the AI about, but it will also capture information from the World Wide Web to fill in those gaps.
Oh, okay.
So basically, it'll essentially just enrich your training, your knowledge sharing experience with information that the AI finds useful from the World Wide Web, from the internet as a whole, essentially.
Interesting, very interesting. All right, we're coming towards the latter half or the latter part, and this is a section that we call love hate.
I love you.
I hate you so much!
You can decide which way we go on this, Rafa. What makes you angry, or what do you love about the education world?
I'd go what makes me angry. And what makes me angry is the one-size-fits-all approach that's out there. Because if we're individuals, we all have our very own ways of learning, of teaching, of acquiring knowledge. And so it's just very important that the learning is bespoke to the business that is actually building the training for their particular people on board, but also for the individuals that are going through that training. So you need to give them a flexible approach to learning too.
All right, that makes a ton of sense to me. I mean, as I mentioned, I think before we started recording, I was a teacher. My family are teachers, so it's in the blood, and one size most definitely does not fit all. Everyone
100%.
is so different, and when you teach, you kind of see all these different learning abilities. The thing I dislike about school is a lot of people come out of it in its current format in the UK, and I think in the US as well, thinking that they are not good at learning. Whereas my argument is always, you didn't fail school, school failed you.
Mm.
So I like the idea of training and learning that's tailored to an individual's way of learning. Somebody said something like, school is where you grade fish on their ability to climb trees. You know, it's just, yeah, you need to tailor things, and that certainly seems to be the approach that you guys are taking, which is a very cool thing. What's the best or worst advice you got about starting a business?
Yeah, so the worst advice I got was to listen to those that are seen as more experienced than you are. And when you actually hear that coming from an advisor or whatever, you feel an immense, overwhelming sort of like stress, because you're trying to factor in each and every piece of advice. And then ultimately, you are just really muddying the waters when it comes to how you're going to build your very own business. So my piece of advice that is basically against that is, of course, like, do listen to those more experienced than you are, or that you think are more experienced than you are. But make sure that you just factor in what you really think will make an impact for your business, and just like make decisions on what will actually not come in handy. Because if you try to factor in each and every little piece of information, you're certainly not going to move forward in the pace that you should, and you'll just fall short, really. So yeah, I just am completely against this element of, okay, you have advisors, you have angel investors, you have whatever, listen to them. Every single time they will have something to add. It's not that way. And in fact, most of the time you're also just wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, so information for the sake of information sometimes, right?
Yeah. Everyone wants to give you advice.
Yep.
Even when they have no real advice to give, they will just try to give you some piece of advice because they want to sound smart or intelligent.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I hear you.
I'm against that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's built your specific business apart from you, right?
Correct. And in fact, if they were the ones to be building this, they should have gone and done that themselves, you know. So remember, you have a motive for building this, whatever it is. Like stick to it. Stay true to your original reasons as to why you want to solve this in the first place, and just factor in what will really make a difference for you moving forward.
Makes sense. What's the most difficult part about running a business?
Yeah, for me at least, okay. It's basically spinning plates. For me, it does come down to that. Obviously, for others, it will come down to managing people with a growing business, or like just having enough money to continue building and growing the business, and fundraising and all of that. For me, it's just the sheer amount of stuff that you have to do on a daily basis. So like my to-do list is endless. I'm mostly leading the commercial side, so sales and marketing, but with that, like, you're always still dipping in and out of product. You are obviously always in fundraising mode. You are like so full of all the admin stuff within the business. There's obviously hiring, there's obviously all of the elements around the people side of the business too. It's just a lot. So you need to be able to prioritize. And what we do here at UJJI, that's become very much ingrained in our culture, is the now, next, later prioritization methodology. So like what needs to be done now, what can be done next, and what you can push down to later, because it's still important, but not something you should be jumping in on now. So prioritization, that is what makes it most difficult for me, but I'm learning a lot from the process of actually building a business from the grassroots up.
It makes a lot of sense. The thing I always come back to is am I being a busy fool?
Love it. 100%. Sometimes I do feel like the busy fool, because you just keep on going from one thing to the next and to the next, and sometimes you haven't even completed the previous, but you actually need to jump on something else because it's just a fire you need to put down. One thing I learned from a previous boss back in Brazil was, if you can finish something in less than 5 minutes, do it now. Even if it's not more important than anything else that you need to do, but do it now, get it out of the way, cross it from your list. And this is another piece of advice that has, that's an actual good advice, like that you can take for the rest of your life.
Kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
So every time you switch a task, it can take up to 45 minutes to get into a flow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remove that task within 5 minutes, then you haven't had to make that switch between tasks.
Because that's what kills you, right? Like, because it really does take time for you to get into that flow, you know? So for example, if I need to ship a quote ASAP for a client, and I can do that in less than 5 minutes whilst writing the email as well and getting it over, then going back to something more strategic that really requires my full attention, just get it out of the way, you know, like, and then focus on what really requires my attention, really.
Makes a lot of sense. What's your favorite quote?
This one is one that so Steve Jobs, I know it's super cliche, right? Like everyone
That's
loves
okay.
Steve Jobs.
That's okay.
But yeah,
It's cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah. Stay hungry, stay foolish. I think that's one of mine, like, because it really ties along with the lifelong learning approach that we take here at UJJI, you know, like just always wanting to remaining curious, you know, like, and continuing to actually acquire more knowledge on all sorts of topics that you can. In fact, one of the things that I found so interesting, that my wife once asked really the heavens for our daughter to have as a trait, was to be curious. It wasn't to be smart or to be beautiful or to I don't know, be physically athletic or whatever. It was to be curious. And I just love it, like curiosity. So yeah, stay hungry, stay foolish, Steve Jobs,
Okay.
that man.
I actually don't know that quote from Steve Jobs, and I know quite a lot of Steve Jobs quotes, so it wasn't cliched to me.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it came from his Stanford
Yes.
presentation when he was actually delivering like a pitch in the graduation. I don't remember the year it was exactly, but something in the 1990s or early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, well, he said a lot of profound things, I would say. Yeah, interesting guy is an understatement. So I like that one. Last question. What question should I have asked you?
How I see AI actually disrupting the world as a whole, maybe like not necessarily within our particular industry, but
Sure.
because you mentioned you actually seeing the sort of like first disruption in the world of technology, which was the internet.
Yeah.
Arguably, AI is even bigger than that, or
Yeah.
at least same level, right?
I'd say we don't know yet, but I'd say
We don't know.
I'd say
Yeah,
it's probably going to be much bigger.
exactly. So yeah, I think no one knows exactly what it'll become. Like no
Mm.
one knew exactly where the internet would take us
Are
and
you an
where it is
optimist
now.
with AI? Do you, because some people have
I
this
am.
very, very pessimistic Terminator 2 type perspective on things.
Yeah, you can either see it with a sort of like uh, Terminator lens, or you can see it with very much like the sort of productivity lens. That is the one that I really want to double down on, and I'm very bullish about. So I am very much an optimistic of it. I think obviously you have to make sure that all of the regulations and everything is in place so that it doesn't go south. But I think there will always be the bad people, right? Like these
Mhm.
people will always try to find a way to actually uh, make an impact negatively for the world when it comes to these pieces of technology. But I like to be more positive about it in the sense that there will be so many use cases that will, at the end of the day, outweigh the downside of it 100%.
So will the machines kill us, I guess, is the big question, right? Will they
Yeah.
do you see it? Do you see anything like that? Because I don't at all.
No. I really think it really depends on who will be behind the coding and all of that, right?
Mm.
Like, because at
So
the
it's a
end of the
tool like
day,
any other, right?
exactly. Just like the atomic bomb, if it were to be used in the way that it would actually like put an end to the world, of course it's bad technology, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, we've seen that it's there, and nothing has been done to putting us in a position in which the world will end anytime soon. At least I hope, and so I see AI being very much like the same sort of weapon.
Yeah, so it's like you could argue that a bullet isn't inherently evil, right? It depends what you do with it.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, it's that sort of thing, really. It can go either way. Let's see. I'm bullish. I'm actually and optimistic when it comes to AI, really. But there has to be also like all of the hard conversations to be had, all of the discussions. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that I do not like to see is more of those discussions in how you're going to be regulating it over how you're going to be using it for the
I'm
best,
with
if
you.
you know what I mean.
You have to find that balance, right?
Exactly.
Makes sense, man. How can people find you and Uji online?
Yeah. So just search me up on LinkedIn, Rafael Guper, and Uji is very much present on LinkedIn too. But yeah, if you just search for us on Google, it should also come up. anything down the lines of AI, gamification, training, learning and development, those words will hopefully bring us up there on Google, and that'll mean that our SEO is being done right.
Yeah, yeah. And UJI, for the guys who are just listening, is spelled uniform, Juliet, indigo, or yeah, UJJI, right?
Correct. That's
All right, man.
exactly right.
We'll try and link to that in the notes as well, man. It's been a pleasure, Rafael.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you have an e-learning business, you're a leader of an e-learning business that you're looking to get to the next level, increase sales, that kind of thing, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link to my LinkedIn beneath this video, and you can get me there. Have a great day.